Welcome back. You're watching Siasa Fiesta here on Morning Prime. And this is editorial cartoon there in the Star today. We shall be discussing this because on Thursday is a big day for the IBC4. Another we shall revisit moment for them. It seems that they are waiting for the guillotine to come down on their heads, as you can see what has been drawn here by Ozone in the Star. And Junaid is accusing JLAC of making unilateral decisions. And a source in Parliament, aware of the ongoings, told, of course, the publication in confidence that the point of divergence is on whether the 4 petitioners or the petitions are merited and filed in good faith. The committee is holding a sitting to lay ground rules for grilling the petitioners and the commissioners, but there appears to be a serious disagreement over this entire plan. And that particular committee is chaired by Gitonga Murugara. This is Taraka MP, who dismissed Junaid's claims, asking what agreements were supposed to be reached. There seems to be some divergence there. We shall eagerly wait to see if that will happen. Also, Azimio and Jubilee. There is an implosion within Azimio. Jubilee are threatening to go back, to retract from Azimio coalition. Where will they go? We've had Rigathi Gachagua, who is wing also the members of a Jubilee party to join Kenya Kwanza. And we have the headline today on the Daily Nation, Ruto plotting to take full control of Parliament, having won over 10 of the 12 independent lawmakers. Kenya Kwanza strategists see the possibility of bridging the 44-member gap to a 2/3 majority that will guarantee President William Ruto's coalition an easy time in passing key legislation to support his agenda, as well as powers to approve or reject changes to the Constitution. Where is it headed? And this is where we are at. Just to finalize our discussion on EALA as well, we're to hear from Farah Malim why some of the legislation that are coming from the EALA Parliament, when they're brought to Parliament here in the country, they never see light of day. Will that change with the 13th Parliament? Farah Malim.
You know, ordinarily, and I will only look at one case, I look at the European Union. The laws at the European Union are superior to all the laws of all other constituent governments and legislatures. So basically, you have to have that piece of the East African community has got to come together. In which case, we will have to make certain amendments into our own constitution, in which we say,
wouldn't that really be usurping also the sovereignty
no.
of the country?
You see, you're looking at a union, pretty much that progressively over a period of time is going to become a confederation. That is the ultimate objective. The objective is a customs union,
common market,
a common market, and then a political union finally.
Monetary,
common currency, monetary, and then finally a political union. That's exactly what the so-called 13 original states of the United States were about. These were independent, 13 different states that came together. So we are coming together right now. So we cannot make a fundamental decision, to come together in every aspect of our lives, and then begin playing hanky-panky business along the way. And that's exactly how we ended up destroying this community in the 70s. And they say it was destroyed by the likes of Njonjo and others who were basically beholden to the so-called Western interests, who saw this imagined powerful market which was going to become independent from them as a threat to the long-term European domination of the African continent's, what you call, resources. And you are told that the European Union was crafted, is a concept taken from the East African community. Look, I remember as a young man, a 14 years old young man, I traveled all the way from Garissa to visit my uncle in Arusha for holidays. And I visited my uncle in Arusha. I was given Tanzanian shillings. I used those Tanzanian shillings when I came back to buy everything I wanted to buy here. And very often you'll be given the change in Ugandan shillings, in Tanzanian shillings, in Kenyan shillings. You get all this mixed up. I personally experienced that. And as he puts it, everything was common. The East African Airways used to train their pilots on those fixed wings and small light planes in Soroti. You get my point? There was the East African National Shipping Line. And that was my first place where I was trained myself as a marine engineer. I don't know, most of you don't know that. I trained as a marine engineer myself.
Oh, you're a marine engineer?
Yes, I started off as a marine engineer. I studied law and other disciplines much later.
You finished? That's the thing.
Yes, I did finish.
I'm not registered.
Starting is another thing. You can actually...
No, I started my career. That was my first discipline. That was my first, what do you call, professional discipline. And I had my friends. We had 6 ships. Actually, Zambia joined us. There was MV Harambe, or what did you call it, Harambe? Uhuru, I can't remember, one of the two. And then MV Uganda. You get my point. MV, there was the Zanzibar was there, Ujamaa was there. There was also one from Zanzibar, because Zanzibar and Tanzania were 2 countries that are independent from one another, that essentially came together, and they were still consummating their own union. We had Mulungushi, MV Mulungushi. So we basically had a national shipping line. We had everything common in the port of Mombasa. We had a common customs. I remember somebody who was late, and now since deceased, who was a Kenyan and was working in Dar es Salaam. There was the East African common harbors, East African railways, and all those were common services. We had the parliament also, which was in... it was not in Arusha those days.
He used to see it sat in Nairobi. He used to move. And
No. I thought it sat in Uganda.
The EALA.
EALA. Where did it sit?
The 1948 one.
No. The later ones, post-independence, sat, I think, in Uganda.
Yeah.
It sat in Uganda. And Robert Ouko started off his politics there as a member of parliament and as a minister in the community's parliament. They had ministers. So what happened? We destroyed it. Kenya destroyed it. We were used by the West to destroy that very powerful, budding thing, because Uganda basically got rid of all the Europeans those days and all that vestiges of colonialism and the rest of it. And you remember what Idi Amin did
with the Indians as well.
Idi Amin did with everybody. I mean, so this is something that Ugandans are proud of Idi Amin because of that. You know what I mean? Among other things, it accelerated the desire for the African people themselves to take charge of this. By the way, we started taking charge of our own economy here after the Somali refugees came in here, and they taught us that we can do it ourselves. But before that, the entire CBD here was either Asian or European. You remember that very well. It's up until 1991.
Down to River Road.
Yes, down to River Road, down to Grogan Road, down to everywhere. You get my point? And these Somalis came and said, what the hell? And then they pulled up, they basically went on importing from outside, going with Kenyans, and that's how we ended up actually opening up our eyes. But let me tell you, the East African dream, which was the best dream ever in this continent, was killed by Kenyans. By the way, let me tell you one thing. We killed it for selfish reasons. Very selfish reasons.
And that's why we've seen even recently,
yes,
Tanzania, Uganda, they've been greatly shy to...
They are shy because they don't trust us anymore.
They don't trust Kenya.
Yes, and then what we did, we just we seized all those assets, by the way. You know that. We stole all the assets that belong to the common services.
No, it happened in one day.
Did we steal?
What happened?
Let me finish. Let me finish. Call a spade a spade. If you are a crook, you say we were crooks. Let me tell you, you cannot. Let me tell you. So
this thievery began way back.
We have always been thugs. We have always been thugs and corrupt. Let me tell you one thing. Let me explain something to you.
Yeah.
You know, we say in my language, I want Dr. Nyikal to hear this. If you have a boil in here which has got pus inside, you can never treat that boil by massaging it. You have to look
to lance it
for a knife and literally,
Be pus, be
yeah.
Whenever there's pus, remove it.
Whenever there's pus, remove it.
What's the Latin word?
Ibi pus, ibi evacua.
Ibi pus.
Ibi evacua. Evacuate the pus. You get my point?
I
like that.
I'm partly also from a medical family, so basically I know what you're saying. Now let me tell you one thing. And this is exactly what we need to do. We need to be brutally honest with ourselves and tell ourselves, look, right now everybody's shy of us in Tanzania, in Uganda, and the rest of us, because we given an opportunity, we will rob their ATMs, we will rob everything else within a day. You know what I mean? And a lot of things have happened. There's so many Kenyans who are in jail in Tanzania, in Uganda, and the rest of them. We can't go after them because of the fishy things they were doing. You get my point? So, but in any case, now we are getting into a community together in which Tanzanians only went south when they lost hope with us. They went to SADC when they totally lost hope with us, and say, look, these people can never be redeemed. You get my point? I mean, it was the man eat man stories and the rest of it. Nyakal remembers that very well.
Smuggling from
Walanguzi.
Uganda.
No, Walanguzi. For coffee for Uganda. Chepkube. What did we do? We took an entire harvest of that country through our own, including politicians who ended up in jail. You get my point? The smuggling, the ivory trade. These were done by the people at top, the government, the top government. When I say top, I mean top. There were even rumors that, not rumors, it's a fact, that the first family was involved in that. You know what I mean? At the time I'm talking about. So basically, we have a repetition deficit that we need to deal with. Let
me come to Ajiko, because I think the sins of our forefathers have been revisited.
Not forefathers. not forefathers. No, we were there. Me and him were there. It's just the other day. It's just the other day. We're all in college.
You're all in college, brothers.
Yes. And Mwaura may have been born or about to be born.
Yeah.
Let us really not demonize Kenya.
No, we're not demoralizing.
Because
but it's good to have this memory where we're coming.
Even institution collapses, even your own family, if it collapses, we cannot say only the wife or the husband. So the collapse of East Africa was not only mainly by Kenya. Remember, we were three, and the first trigger, ideally, Honorable Farah, get your facts right, is not Kenya. Yes. The first trigger of this conflict was when Idi Amin took power in 1971.
Yes.
And he brought some conflict in politics. And as he mentioned, Nyerere was delaying independence of Tanzania for purpose of this community. And as such, Tanzanians and Kenyans and Ugandans had the political suspicion. Kenya, is true, it was asking for more say in decision making. If we read history, I and Mwaura. And why was it asking more say? Just like we are doing today, and I will come to that point. Because of different economic systems. Primarily, Tanzania and Kenya were at far edge from each in terms of economy. And as such, members were not able to agree. Remember, the member states then were on mutual agreement, unlike today when we have structured agreement. So all is not lost. We didn't do so badly. Reason, if we did so badly and we stole everything, what do we have from the community? Only the Lake Victoria Basin. We have 10 institutions, 10 in East Africa. Where is East African Development Bank? Kampala. Where is Kasoa, the in charge of aviation of East Africa? Entebbe. Where is the Lake Victoria Fisheries? Uganda. Where we have about 4 institutions. If I may remember another one, what do we have from East African community as Kenya? Just 1 institution. I think even going forward.
So this notion that is being advanced by Farah is not entirely true.
No.
It's not entirely true.
Stole some of the assets.
It's not entirely true, and it is not factual. And I want to bring objectivity of once institution, any institution collapse, you cannot say only that person made it collapse. And purely this was triggered by Idi Amin.
Can I explain that?
But that's the
notion that we store everything. What I remember, and Tanzanians say this, is that the East African airline, which was there, a national carrier for then, because it was national, it was a regional carrier. Once they landed at Jomo Kenyatta, the Mzee, former Jomo Kenyatta, said then, if it has collapsed, that the East African airline remain.
Can I explain? Let me explain.
This is history I never had from the classroom.
Let me explain.
Now make Kenya look like we took everything.
Let me explain now.
What about the coaches?
We need to review this curriculum.
Let me explain.
This curriculum of ours is not giving a full knowledge of what really happened in the East African community.
Let me explain. By the way, Let me tell you where this thing started. And I want you are reading these things. We lived through it. Me and Nika lived
But
through
you did
it.
degree from Mona Bofara before East African Development Bank.
Just a moment.
It's
Just
not
a
in
reaction.
Kenya.
Just a moment.
It's
Just
not
a
in
moment.
Kenya.
Just a
These are a
moment.
reaction.
Just a moment. Let me explain to you. Actually, the Idi Amin thing, we had a role in Idi Amin's takeover of Uganda. Are you aware of
As
that?
Kenya.
As Kenya. As Kenya.
A takeover?
Yes. We supported with the Israelis and the British and the rest of them supported Obote to be dethroned. Obote came in here immediately coming
He
from...
was in Singapore.
He was in Singapore. He came here.
I think
Meeting, he
Dubai.
came here.
Can you
Let him finish.
Can you finish?
You know, even in Parliament, we give information. I think, let me give him information.
No. Let him finish. Just a moment.
We are building an economic bloc.
Yes.
And now,
Yes.
most of us, like myself and Mwaura, are enthusiastic that we are going to build
But
one
it's good to
nation.
also learn from
It is
history.
good to learn, but when now we demonize our country,
You
what we
demonize
want
it.
to do,
No, we're not
and we
demonizing.
do it on a
Even
national
for me, I'm
TV.
interested to know.
I feel very uncomfortable that now we are sending our members to EALA, and members from Uganda who are of our age.
Can you
we
listen?
start looking at these members, and maybe they have to keep their bags because they are fearing Omar Hassan.
If you didn't know, they do.
Let me tell you, can I finish?
But why are we stamping? Why are we stamping that? Let's debate should have some limits. It should have limits.
You're not serious.
Purpose of our country.
Purpose
of our country.
We listen to you.
Purpose of our country.
We listen to you. Listen to us.
But at least within the context.
Can I explain?
Let me just, because even me, I'm interested. I never learned this in this.
Can I
So,
Can I finish?
You know the bar.
Oh,
This
no.
community, we are building
That's
it
not right.
now. And now that we are building
I'm
the
talking
community.
about that, and primarily because we want to have a strong community is why we are saying what we are saying now. Okay, let's listen to me.
And what is the capacity
Oh my
of
God.
this building it?
Okay, I want to get my bell.
No, but
How will
this
these
is
people
now
who are
crossfire.
building a community make that
Okay, let's have
please,
let's have some order.
Just beg all of us.
Well, can we just have fun? I'm interested to know what
Can you
happened.
listen? Can you listen? Listen.
I know you are the chair of the EALA committee. On a very squeamish position you are, but it's good to also have this history for the benefit of many Kenyans.
Let me now explain this to you.
Yeah,
Let me
please.
explain to you.
Close the borders when everything.
Just a moment. Just a moment.
Obote came with what was called the Common Man's Charter, which is socialist in inclination. Nyerere brought in African socialism, which was called Ujamaa,
So left of center.
the left of center. We were
Capitalist.
literally capitalists, the bulwark and the bastion of Western influence in this part of the world. The British held us with a stranglehold, including having white ministers. Bruce Mackenzie was a white minister
For agriculture.
for agriculture here. You get my point? Including having Bob Morgan as one of the top guys in GSU. We had them everywhere.
Bernard Shaw in the police.
Bernard, everybody. Bob Shaw. Yeah.
Bernard.
Yes. Now listen to me. Let me explain to you what happened.
Excuse me.
We supported that coup. Obote ran from all the way from Singapore and came here to Pan-African. Those days was called, you remember Pan-African Hotel, which is a 5-star hotel. And he wanted to contact his military officers to create a counter coup. We closed all communication for him here. And kept him here, not allowed him to leave here to go to Dar es Salaam until such a time that the matter was fait accompli. Done, and done deal. Okay, we're doing this bidding on behalf of the British, the Israelis, the Western interest that time. Once that has happened and Obote was out of the way, of course Nyerere knows that he's the next person who is going to be there and will be used against him too. Then Idi Amin chased the Asians out, gave them 90 days for them to leave.
And they came here.
And they came here. We had to have a massive influx here. Now, that is when the problem between Idi Amin and us started.
And we processed them to Britain.
Yes, and we processed them and sent them to Britain ourselves. For all intents and purposes, listen to me carefully. For all intents and purposes, Idi Amin was our friend when he got into power. And we helped him. But later on, we realized the man was going too far. You know what I mean? We were hoping that he was just because of his closeness to the British and the Israeli army officers who trained him, by the way, who were close to him. we will assume that we're going to have another capitalist thing and we'll just have Tanzania to deal with. He turned out to be an African dictator with an African dream who said, why should I have black, white people here controlling my economy? So the guy became much more extreme without any ideological persuasion. But here he believed in that simple thing. Kwanini, I need this to be taken over by blacks.
So some of the Asians were taken to...
The Asians came in here. All of them came in here.
All of them.
Yes, and some of them remained behind, and most of them all went to Canada and the UK.
Not only that,
So this is
if
where you
you
took...
go to Oxford Street,
Sunit's father was taken to that particular
Yes,
village.
yes, yes. Can I now explain
if you
something?
go to Oxford Street, you will find some of them.
They are there. They speak. The older ones speak Swahili up to now. You know, the older ones. Now let me explain. Let me now explain to you. The moment we started playing hanky-panky business with him, and doing the bidding on behalf of the Western dominant powers, UK and the rest of them, we started sabotaging him. You get my point? The moment we started sabotaging him and hobnobbing with the opposition, now he said, up to Naivasha is my country.
Yes.
That's the genesis.
So he put in again another massive spanners in the works. But finally, there was an agreement. Idi Amin came here. Him and Kenyatta they shook hands. We became very close friends. He said nothing like that, but let's live together. Do you know what he did? Later on, there was such a powerful relationship between us and them that Bruce Mackenzie left here to go to Uganda. First of all, we assisted in the Entebbe raid. Everything done on the Entebbe raid was fully assisted by the Kenyan
blood
government.
was in Nairobi Hospital.
Yes. We did.
The rescue plane, the
Yes,
operations.
everything.
What was operations?
Entebbe.
Yeah, operations in Tebe.
Nairobi Hospital was prepared.
Yes.
To
take all those patients and everybody who was going to be injured in that. We were fully part of it. Fully part of it against Idi Amin. And his Air Force was destroyed there then. The Israelis destroyed all those planes out over there in the field. Now, and then of course later on we even supported. In the midst of all that now, when these other forces were coming from Tanzania to go and evade and get rid of this guy, we took all his coffee. You know what I mean? You understand my point? So basically, let me explain to you.
Yes.
Let me explain to you. Now, we have had a role in that. There was a change in Uganda after that, of course, progressive. Museveni was a student in Dar es Salaam University through that East African community process. My class was 1 year before me.
And he lived here also?
Absolutely, 1 year. The
Students
who did their A levels in 1974, good number of them ended up in Dar es Salaam University and others ended up in Makerere University. You remember that?
People,
there was a common admission
about Wako,
Yes.
a little bit before Wako
Yes.
and above. All those lawyers are from Dar es Salaam.
All of them are from Dar es Salaam.
The doctors
Even Wako was from Dar es Salaam.
who taught me,
Yes.
the lecturers,
Were from
who taught
Makerere.
us,
Were from Makerere.
all of them were from Makerere.
From Makerere.
The engineers,
Yes.
at that age,
Were from
all
East
of them
African,
were
Nairobi, East
It
African
was one
Technical
university.
College. University of Nairobi was called East African Technical College. Technical College. So basically, these things were there. We had been way ahead of everybody in creating that dream of an African Union, United States of Africa.
Thank you.
We can still do it.
All right, we can still do it.
Listen, we can still do it. Well, we have to avoid the old pitfalls. We have to be brutally honest.
I'll just say one good thing
Listen.
we need to do forward.
We'll come to
Listen
you.
to
We're going
me,
to wind
Carl.
up with Isaac Maura on this as well. We move on to other issues. I think we belabor the point on East Africa, but it's very important.
It's
and
important.
it's good history as well.
It's good history, but I am
Can I-
not
can I-
part
no, no,
of
can-
the history where Kenyans told Kenyans
We'll come to you.
abuse and all
We'll come to
that,
yeah, we'll come to you. Let's hear from Dr.
Let
Nika.
me tell you, maybe the details.
By the way, Bruce Mackenzie was brought up in midair. He visited Idi Amin. Idi Amin gave him a small present.
He died in the
Smart
air.
as he was. Just before he ended up in Nairobi, it was blown up in the air because he put in a timer. He gave him a sculpture.
Yeah.
You remember that? And he died just here. He
Postmortem
blew
was
him
done
up,
by
blew him
Dr.
out of the
Ribeiro.
skies.
Anyway, we don't know. But anyway, but me, the way forward, let's go back there. All this that happens, maybe the details may not be exact, but in principle, they are true. It's not only the planes that were blocked here. What about the coaches? East of where the railways headquarters, where Mudavadi will now be going, that was the East African Railways and Harbours.
And the harbours,
headquarters.
yes.
So what you are seeing now, which we must
What
handle
about the
carefully,
ships?
is a reaction. So the other countries are reacting. But the way forward, in my view, let's get East Africa together. There's one thing it will solve for us, in my view. If you get that big East Africa, now it's getting bigger with Uganda, with the
Rwanda,
DRC and Rwanda.
Burundi.
It will sort out the problem
And soon Somalia, most likely.
of ethnicity. There will be no single group that will consider itself a large group and can determine by numbers. These ethnic alliances, if you have a very huge country with very many tribes, it then dies off. To me, I think that's the way we will go. Because again, you will find all the ethnic groups they are in each country. Yeah, you come to Kenya, the Luos are there, the Luyas are there, even the Maasais are there. Even in Central, there's a relations with the Chaga people. They're almost the same people. So if we actually come together, we'll minimize this thing of ethnicity.
Right.
And the big market and our people in East Africa are more united than our governments. Our governments are delaying our people. Let me leave it there.
Let's hear from Monjiko, then we
thank
wind
you.
up
First,
with
let me appreciate that you are bringing the East African debate almost every time we are here, because we are sensitizing the citizens. And I want to appreciate KTN in particular, because I have seen, as much as we struggle to educate our people on East Africa, very little is also on air, and no one really is speaking of East Africa. And as this panelist, we are happy to say the history, but at least the history in context. One thing,
but it's
we were there unstructured. Here we are structured. After re-establishment of EAC in 2000 with the new treaty, I want to say from one question you had put that why we don't implement, and I think Honorable Maura asked about the legislations there, are they superior or minor than the legislation here? I want to say that this treaty supersedes this constitution.
Okay.
And
Yes.
so any law that is made here in East Africa, it supersedes the laws here. The summit members, the president just need to sit down, sign, and that become law. And I can give you a very practical, very
The summit
practical. The summit members are the
presidents.
highest.
The
They are the presidents. They are
Heads
the
of
highest
states.
organ of the East Africa. Now, with this re-establishment, with this new structure, all what they have said is coming. That's what Honorable Farah was speaking of as objectives in terms of pillars. That is the custom union, and today we can all see the common passport. We all have the light blue passport. Actually, end of this year, we are doing away with the original navy blue passport. The whole region. So it's all is not lost. That is where now what they are speaking of people moving from this side to this side is true. We are same people. We have Mount Meru there. All the time in Arusha, we sleep at Mount Meru Hotel. The mountain is there. So we have Meru here. We are same people. And that service through common market pillar. That is common service, the common market is purely on free movement of goods, free movement of services, free movement of people. So very soon we shall be moving, and we are already moving because we don't need a visa to go anywhere in our region. So again, we are there. We have roads, very good infrastructure. Our citizens do not know that as East African community, we even do infrastructure joining the whole region. For example, a very good point in case is this Namanga Road. That road is done by the East Africa. It's even maintained by us when I was there. And many other. You go to Holili border, even their place. I think on Saturday I saw the president launch a road also, which was to go from the coastal region or the coastal corridor, I think, to some place. So in terms of infrastructure, we are doing together. The 1 shilling that was there, in fact, it is coming in a more structured manner now, not Tanzania, not Uganda, not Kenya, it is coming. And Honorable Maura was scared, like I was sometime, that our economy is here and Burundi is here. What will happen? They will be able to manage the matrix of economy, and each country will remain where it is. You see, like Tanzania shillings look weaker. But may I tell you, when I go to Tanzania, with the 10,000 shillings, which is equal to 500 shillings here, I purchase more in their supermarket. I will come up with a whole bag of items with 10,000 in their supermarket, and 10,000 is equal to 500 Kenya shillings here, which 500 Kenya shillings can't buy me maybe past milk and bread and eggs. The fourth pillar, what now they say we were, that unstructured with Idi Amini, Obote, and those other stories. Let me tell my generation that now we are going to face that in a more structured way, and that is the political federation. That is what we aim to have. For common shilling, it should be there by 2024. Time and again, these protocols we sign, we agree, but we don't meet the target of time frame. Because we are a community, we agree and extend. For instance, the East African passport was supposed to be by 2019. Yes. We were not able to meet the target. We extended to 2020, and now we extended to 2022. Chances are, if we still don't find ourselves there, we are a community, and it is our home, we can still extend, but I think family now, they are going to close that chapter because we need to move from there. So all what they have spoken, very good points. But now, because they were then, and there was that mistrust and political conflict and all that history which was bad, I want to encourage my generation that going forward, now things are structured, they will be written, they will be signed, and we should look for a formidable community, and we are headed there.
But you'll appreciate...
And may I say that the team that we have sent to EALA is one of the best. But in future, I continue urging our country that we continue nominating credible members so that even if you elect any from the 15, you said very, very, very strong members. But this team which is going there, I can tell you, is a very strong member. It will represent us very well. And when I see Honorable Speaker here, who is in Parliament currently, Daktari, and many other, we shall hold their hands from EALA, and I'm sure you'll see the difference.
Indeed. You raise a very important point that, the treaty is over and above even our constitution regionally, at the end of it. And that brings the protocol it brings a very important point on how pivotal even the members that we elect in this particular legislation should be of good intellectual vigor and input when it comes to debating and legislations at the end of the day. If it is not really usurping, but is actually superseded, or it does supersede our constitution.
In fact, just one point related to what Mwaura asked. Let me say that every partner state, they choose the members so keenly. Go to Republic of Rwanda. We had the former Prime Minister sitting with us, former Balozi sitting with us. They were likes of Daktari, Mwaura, and Farah. Ministers. Go to Republic of Tanzania. I think from the history of Dar es Salaam, having been a school of law, we have so many lawyers, minimum 4 in the assembly. It is only Kenya sometimes that we certify the political parties urge and we send anyone. And that's why I say God is with us this time, and we have been able to send credible members. We have been able to send. But one point, the challenge, which now I think as this parliament and many others have to sit down and see, is that in EALA, we do not encourage private members' bill. All the legislation are initiated by members of council, the second organ, that is the ministers. All ministers of East Africa are members of EALA. They are sworn in, they are ex officio, they are the front bench. We sit with our ministers in parliament, in EALA. In fact, we ask them the question direct. So these are the members who come with any bill. You want to bring the axle load bill?
Thank you.
It has to come from the ministers.
Thank you. Mwaura?
Yes, I think listening to Wanjiku, she should have spoken last because she's really the custodian of the EALA dream, EAC dream in Kenya. But I want to say, number one, there needs to be a plebiscite, I think, for all the member states for purposes of ownership. You see, the way we are debating here very robustly, we have the past between Honorable Farah and Dr. Nyikal, and then now the present, which is Wanjiku Muhi, and the future, which is Isaac Mwaura. We need a referendum so that people feel this is happening, especially because our little children can sing the East African anthem very well. I'm very impressed by that. Number two is the fact that East Africa, the budgeting of the community. As Wanjiku informed us, let there be a direct taxation of all our ports and harbors.
Alternative financing mechanism.
So that then the kitty does not have to depend on the benevolence and philanthropy of national governments.
Yes.
Because that donation in itself takes away the power of the center, the central power of EALA. And then number 3, EAC must also move away from being its own microcosm, like it's the 8th entity of the 7 member states. I think that's a problem. It needs to be fed to be the apex rather than its own entity.
Sure.
And then also, there's an issue around Kenya. By the way, when we have been going for these EALA games, and now they're in South Sudan this year, Kenyans are more fair. If you look at how we play those games, Kenyans are usually more the sober ones. Sorry to say this, but I have seen people who, the way they play and the way they want to win reflects their democracy.
Exactly.
So Kenya is actually advanced than these other countries. In fact, you tend to feel like Kenyans want to slow themselves so that others can catch up. And the benefits of this community must also be amplified. For example, the way Honorable Wajiko has said, if you have, Tanzania shillings, you buy more. That would be very attractive for business, for anyone who wants to do that. So we need to create a story, a narrative, and also to have a champion. I must confess, I find Museveni being more of an East African community champion than any of the other African presidents. He is more deliberate. And I hope that now with the introduction of compulsory Kiswahili in Uganda, and hopefully in the whole of this region, it will help us. Yesterday I met someone from Congo. They can't speak even French, but they can speak Kiswahili very well. The person is from Kinshasa. So we have an opportunity to actually leverage on Kiswahili as a unifying factor. Today, if you move here in this country, you find so many Burundians, so many people from Congo, because of this refugee issue. Now, also what we need to look at is, it also comes with a baggage. Will we be able to manage? Like, for example, the Congo DRC government really does not have the stranglehold on its own territory. There's an issue there. So even as we look at the structures of the EAC, if we are to go through the political federation, we must start thinking, what are these manageable units? So that then you do not also infiltrate issues of insecurity, uncertainty, porous borders, and issues of, that kind of thing, because that is where there is an issue. And also transnational crime and, illicit financial flows. There are things that we need to look at, and to be a little bit selfish, Honorable Wajiko Moya, people with albinism are killed in Tanzania. I don't want voters to be open for my to be killed. I need to be sure that they will be protected,
Sankok will help you. Sankok is there.
I know it will, but let me tell you one thing. I'll tell you my dream. Yeah. When we get to DRC, we must really convince them to build a road from, first of all, build a bridge between Kinshasa and Brazzaville. And then get
across the river.
Across the river. These guys are across the river. And where they are, there are rapids. Looks like God wanted a bridge there. And after we get there, we need to get a road from Brazzaville or Kinshasa to Point Noir in the Atlantic.
You have your phone with you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you call President Ruto?
Yeah,
He's there right now. Tell him to.
Before we do
when we do that, you know when we do that, from Mombasa to the Atlantic, it will be passing through East Africa. What it will do in terms of mobilizing is great. Well, maybe I'm thinking too far, but that is the way
it's a good dream,
yeah.
And that's why Kenya is at forefront to provide peace and security by implementing the protocol of peace and stability in the region.
Right.
That's why I just want to say something.
Yeah. So my producer also is reminding me that Sony Sugar Company was owned by one of the families evicted from Uganda.
Yes, Madvanis.
Yeah,
yes.
Mehtas, yes. Their son Sheka also will become
Sheka Mehta was
a
rally driver, yes.
Yeah. So he's saying, I should tell you that your history is tacitly exciting. Yeah.
He's just saying correct.
You wanted to say something, Farah?
Yes. Let me tell you one thing. I want us to have this union also as a learning experience between ourselves. You see, you bring people together so that through that integration, the best of every side is accommodated. and the worst of every side is avoided. For example, Tanzanians. There's no ethnicity in Tanzania. Completely.
Yeah, no tribalism.
The first president is Zaraki. His whole community are less than 30,000. The second president is Mwinyi, Shagali Mwinyi, Hassan Mwinyi. He's actually not from Tanzania originally. His grandfather came from Malawi. He's a Mnyasa. Mnyasa, they call them the Wanyasa. He doesn't have a tribe. The third one is Mkapa. Mkapa is a small clan that lives with the Nyakusa in the south. Very, very small.
Bagamoyo.
Bagamoyo. No. Bagamoyo is Kikwete. The next one is Kikwete. He's a Mkwere. Mkweres are less than 30,000 also in Bagamoyo. And finally, Bagamoyo, yes, but when you're through it, because that was the route for the slaves. And then finally, you come to Magufuli. Magufuli is a very small community that sometimes I said originally were Luos, originally were everything. They live among the Sukuma, and they're very small. Now, I know myself. The longest serving Minister for Foreign Affairs in Africa was Hassan Diria. He remembers it very well. Hassan Diria was a Tanzanian Minister for Foreign Affairs who served in that place for, I think, over 10 years. A star in many aspects. He was a Somali. Hassan Diria was a Somali born and brought up in Zanzibar. The Deputy Commissioner of Police when we came, I remember myself, was a Somali. Originally, his father came from all the way from here, from Kenya, as a matter of fact. The Director of Medical Services was a Luo for the longest. I think you remember that.
Yeah,
the Director of Medical Services was there for the longest, one of the most celebrated professionals and doctors in that country. Even today.
There's no remote connection with Dr.
No.
This also is a medical...
No, if you go to Tanzania right now, the number of minorities, by the way,
Director of Medical Services.
You know that the Vice Chairman of CCM, it comes from one of the smallest communities there. The lady herself is a lady, first lady in our part of the world, and secondly somebody who was hesitant and was pushed in from Zanzibar, not from Tanzania mainland where the big tribes are. She's not a Sukuma, she's not a Nyamwezi, she's not a Chaga, she's not a Hehe. So we have to borrow that. Now you cannot imagine ourselves. Can you imagine, for example, Andorobo becoming a president in Kenya?
We should imagine.
We should.
Actually.
We should imagine.
Imagine it.
You see, now we're having a debate about these counties.
Or Taveta, or Taita. You get my point? Or Duruma. You know, we're looking at all those things right now. Or Orma, for example. You get my point? No, so we have a lot. We better start imagining when we live together and we make a reality of the community itself. Then we will imagine all that. Nobody knows the tribe of the other one when you go to Tanzania. I just came from there the other day. I traveled there to take my son to study medicine there. And I was a bit too late for the universities there. So I took him to Uganda. He's studying medicine in Uganda now. You get my point?
What did you opt for?
I opted for that because he had done the A-levels himself.
Okay.
He done the A-levels. He didn't do the KCSE. So he already had his 4 principles. And I realized instead of doing 6 years in Kenya, let him do 5 years there. He knows what I'm talking about. So basically, but at the same time, I don't feel anything. I am not worried at all. Because one, their safety is very good. Crime is almost less than 10% of what you have in here when you go to Tanzania for information. And a number of other places. Now let me tell you the final thing. The final thing. The final thing is the ease with which we can do business with one another depends on the trust between the people and the businessmen themselves. Many people wonder why Somalis are doing very well in business. Because we can go into a 100 million deal right now just with a handshake. We don't sign anywhere, but you will protect your end of the
handshake is allowed.
Now tell me if my sister here can trust a million shillings with umbrella.
But Rafa is a true Somali national.
No. I'm just saying the areas we need to perfect. And we need to borrow from all the communities in East Africa. And from the Tanzanians, from the Ugandans, from the Somalis, from everybody. For us to perfect. Because one thing is not questionable. We are the bigger brother here. You get my point? Yes. And now the market is even developing further because we want to bring in the 120 million Ethiopians into this. The 25 million Somalis into this. And in all cases, people love Kenya and Kenyans.
The 100 million in Congo.
The 100 million in Congo. There you go. The 100 million in Congo. Once we stabilize the country and do all of the good things we need to do, we will be able to get that market into it.
And there are ethnic groups in Congo that are related to ethnic groups in
Kenya. Here.
Like the
in
law.
here.
Yes.
In here.
It is a cross.
Right.
Nikal wants to make the Luos the biggest community in this country.
Because of Uganda, Tanzania, and
No.
So Uganda, Tanzania, and Congo, and South Sudan.
They're
It will be
everywhere.
the Luo nation.
By the way,
It will be the biggest, actually.
By the way, Nikal, I was shocked.
But
I traveled in the 80s to a place called Wau in Bahr el Ghazal in South Sudan. Those days it was still part of the main Sudan. And I saw people talking Jaluo there.
yeah, Nikal in Bahr el Ghazal is Nikal.
Yes. And I saw them in
Nikal, this
And
is where
even in Gulu-
this is where you failed, Baba. This diaspora vote. Yeah, that we're talking about, all these laws that we have in South Sudan, in Congo. If you made a mobilization, what we have upcoming as a cartoon will not be happening in
It will be too costly.
No, but I see. But
why don't you mobilize this diaspora?
What I said, actually, if you have the East African Federation, even that one we are saying the Luos are, they'll still not be the majority.
Why?
And they will still not command, they'll not be the largest group, because the population will be so large that no single group can say, standing on our own and getting another one, we can make it. Now, the others, the Luos in other places, they are citizens of that country.
Of that country.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And they're also
They're not
different
in
tribes.
diaspora.
They are not diaspora.
Meritocracy will be there.
It is just
And
an
by the way,
like
they're in Ethiopia also. The Anuak in Ethiopia are
Yeah.
Luos.
They speak.
Yes.
So they're everywhere.
Yeah, there's a huge.
They are the pitch blacks in
We are
Ethiopia.
just- we are
I
just-
used to wonder, why are these pitch black,
Actually,
residents of
blue,
Ethiopia?
Adola.
Yeah. They are so, they are actually, it's almost navy blue black.
No, it is the Nile and the lake.
And the neck.
One of the former presidents of Uganda is called Tito Okello. So.
You know, we need after.
What's that?
Do you know
He was former president of
do you
Uganda.
know how Zanzibar
Actually, the Luos.
was liberated and became part of Tanzania?
Where?
Zanzibar.
Oh, yeah,
Zanzibar
Okello.
wasn't a part of Tanzania at the time of independence.
The man
It
who-
was part of the Sultan of Oman or someplace.
No,
When there
Zanzibar.
was-
Zanzibar was independent. It's
Yeah.
an independent state.
Yeah,
Superstate
but-
of Oman.
But
yeah.
closely linked to Ottoman, yes, you're right.
Yeah, Sultan. So this man called Okello is
yes.
actually who actually brought a coup that removed the Sultan.
Tito Okello.
No.
It was another Okello.
It's called Marshal Okello. He called
In
himself a
He
Marshal.
Zanzibar.
called himself Marshal
Field
Okello.
Marshal
In Zanzibar.
Okello.
Yeah.
In Zanzibar.
So, but they played him a trick. They called him to Dar es Salaam, and then they brought him to Kenya, and then they brought him to Tanzania. He couldn't get back. When he came back, it was now Tanzania.
No, he was
But it's the one who was
Exactly
the one
what they did to Obote.
and
Same script.
finally he was killed by Idi Amin. You remember that?
that bit I didn't, but I know that. But what I'm saying,
That was
we are one.
That was the rumor.
And if we take it up to Central Africa, because even in Central African Republic, people speak Swahili. You go down south beyond Tanzania.
In
people speak
Zambia. Northern
People
Zambia.
speak- And if when I went to Harare, and I went to the newborn unit, because as I went there as a doctor, there are people there, when they're speaking, you know this must be a lawyer. Yeah, because we are so much together that if we could just come one, we would be a very strong
Is
region.
it because of the accent?
No, even the
Yeah,
stem.
even
Oh,
let me take the word. Let me take the word
people.
Maji. Maji is the same from here all down to Cape Town. Mai, Amanzi,
Mai.
Amazi,
Mai.
it's the same.
If you hear the Bemba talk their language, just because of being good in Swahili, you will understand everything they're saying. I met a young man, a young lady.
So you actually just have Bantu to one side, and then you have the Nilotics, and then they have the Kushites.
All right.
and the
We need to rest this topic right now. I think we've done exhaustively well, I think, and justice to it. Very, very
And we're building the
interesting.
community. And
We must.
Don't worry about us. We're not trying to destroy the community. We're building the community.
We know what must not be done.
We know what must not be done.
Back Cleidi and the team are normal.
Yeah. Could you just allow me to take a
women
short
are
break
always
right
giving
now?
Actually, the
But
Minister of Foreign
another-
Affairs should conduct always seminars for our own businessmen on
If you
how
have
to
time,
do
I will
business.
tell you how it actually
Yes,
works.
yes.
Because I was able to hold the first health ministers meeting as the chairman of KMA. The structure wasn't there. But we organized within the medical associations in East Africa to get a meeting. And one minister from Uganda said he's joining. The other minister had to join. East African then came in and said, we are hosting the first Council of Ministers. And it's so well structured from the ministers all the way to the summit.
Yes.
Ministers, PS, ministers,
Thank you.
then we be at the summit.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Nyikal. We need to take a short break. When we circle back, we look at this remaining two editorial cartoons, which also will form the basis of our discussion. And it's all about Azimio and it imploding right now. Jubilee threatening to cut away from the coalition. Where is it headed? Looking at what is on the front page of the Daily Nation, Ruto plots to take full control of Parliament. Right, some of his members might be going there. This will make one in the history of this country of the strongest, of course, coalition of Kenya Kwanza, who will really stifle other parties in the House. We take a short break right now. When we circle back, we continue with that and more. You're watching Siasa Fiesta.